Screech by Taran NCT on AO3. Episode 22, Chapter 23. Hitoshi was in the back seat of the car, cradling his fingers through Izuku's hair as he laid up curled in Hitoshi's lap. His brother had gotten almost no sleep the past few days, his sleep full of nightmares. The attack on the city had been on Wednesday night, and the only reason they didn't come home that day was because Izuku didn't want to cut Hitoshi's internship short, and he swore he'd be okay. Izuku would start out the early morning hours cuddling with Hitoshi or Dad, but by the time they woke up, Izuku would have been migrated to the hotel roof. Not even cuddling with Dad could rid Izuku of his nightmares. Izuku had eye bags that were almost as Gucci as his and Dad's, and with Izuku being an owl and used to little sleep, that was really an indicative of his condition. Hitoshi really didn't want to wake up Izuku. He seemed to be sleeping perfectly for the first time since the attack. But they were almost home. Hopefully Papa would be able to help Izuku sleep. And if not, then Auntie Namori definitely would. As they turned the final corner and the apartment building came to view, Hitoshi gently nudged Izuku. "Hey there, bird brain. Time to wake up. We're home." Izuku tightened his hold on Hitoshi and shook his head. "I'm gonna leave you in the car, Izuku," Hitoshi warned. Izuku complained, wordlessly. Dad parked the car and looked back at them. "If you carry him inside, I'll grab all the bags," he suggested. Hitoshi huffed in annoyance. "You are so lucky you barely weigh anything," Hitoshi said as he got a good grip on Izuku and got out of the car. Hitoshi was feeling the urge to be a little bit petty, so he decided to let Izuku continue sleeping all the way up to the apartment, and even once he got inside and kicked off his shoes. Hitoshi let him sleep all the way until he dropped him right on Kaminari's lap. Izuku jolted awake from the sudden drop with a sudden squeak and looked around. His eyes met with Kaminari's, and he hooted before wrapping his arms around him and burying his face in Kaminari's chest. "I didn't think it'd still be here," he mumbled into his chest. Kaminari wrapped his arms around Izuku. "Of course I'd still be here. Internships aren't officially over until tomorrow, so I'll be staying the night." Kaminari started playing with Izuku's hair. "Besides, I've heard you had a bad few days, and I told you I'd be here for you. So if you want to talk, or just snuggle, I'm here." Hitoshi heard Izuku hoot quietly, and then decided to give them privacy. He picked up his bag from where Dad had dropped it, and wandered back into his room. He also had a boyfriend to talk to. Denki smelled nice, like thunderstorm, a unique mix of fresh rain and lightning. Izuku had always loved the smell of thunderstorms, and would always open his window to let in the smell, or fly to the roof to enjoy it. He nuzzled further into Denki's hold, and sighed in contentment. "How was your internship, Denki?" Izuku asked. "Mine was a little too exciting to talk about tonight, but I want to hear about yours." Denki ran his fingers through Izuku's hair. "It was great," he answered. "I'm so glad you talked me into going with Mike-sensei. I've learned so much. And he gave me these books on electricity. There was so much in there I didn't know before. Like, did you know that using a higher voltage doesn't necessarily mean more power?" "Oh?" Izuku tilted his head up, so he was still leaning against Denki, but now looking at him. "Tell me all about it." They spent the next hour like that. Izuku snuggled on Denki's lap, while the blonde talked all about the things he learned over the course of the past week. Izuku breathing in Denki's unique thunderstorm scent and listening to him talk excitedly about electricity. As Izuku burned his head more into Denki's chest, before he felt himself drifting off to sleep, he couldn't help but think, I don't know why Dad complains about loud blondes so much. I really like mine. So, today we will see how much you learned in your internships. All Might called out to the gathered students. "We will be running a race, but not just any race. No, a rescue race. Ground Gramba here is the perfect setting for this race." All Might gestured to the fake city behind him. I will be situated somewhere within, and you will be tasked to locate me. The students murmured to themselves excitedly, but no one was willing to use the word fun. They have been traumatized enough by Aizawa, thanks. Izuku was bouncing on the balls of his feet as All Might separated the students into groups, based solely on their mobility levels, and then took off into the city to wait for his rescue. Izuku's groups was comprised of himself, Hitoshi, Sero, and Shouta. If he flew, he'd win the race, no questions. But Izuku wanted to see how he'd fare if he ran without flying. He was sure he'd lose, but by how much of a margin? He looked at the others he'd be running the race with. He couldn't use Hitoshi to get anywhere fast. His scarf was great for mobility and aid, but he kept it with himself, the same way Shouta did. But Sero, he'll be leaving bits of tape everywhere. Maybe Izuku could use the tape to help him. And Shouta would likely create frozen paths. Izuku would likely follow those. With a firm plan in mind, Izuku took his place at the starting line. As soon as the electronic buzzer signaled the start of the race, all 4 teens took off, Hitoshi very quickly taking the lead, with Sero hot on his heels. Hitoshi risked a glance back and noticed Izuku skillfully running along the pipes of the city, occasionally swinging off the tape that Sero had left behind, or sliding on the ice that Shouta created. But never once did he pull out his wings. Turning his attention back to the race, he realized that Izuku was simply challenging himself. He was an expert at stealth, and unless he was up against that, he could easily evade and escape if needed. They talked while during their internship about how Izuku wanted to work on his quirkless abilities, and it seems as though he was doing that right now. He wondered if Izuku would use his wings if he slipped, or if he just accepted an injury as a learning experience. Hitoshi mentally shrugged and continued on with the race. It didn't take long for him to get to the finish line, getting first place, with Sero barely 5 seconds behind him. Shouta was another 10 seconds behind Sero, and Izuku perked up at the mere 3 seconds after Shouta. The 4 teens finished within 20 seconds of each other. Mito bro, are you feeling okay? Sero asked. Yeah, I'm fine. Why? Izuku tilted his head in confusion. You didn't fly. You could have destroyed us here with next to no effort, he exclaimed. Why didn't you? Izuku grinned and shrugged. Where's the challenge in that? Hitoshi laughed and pushed Izuku towards the railing. Brat. Mitsunko was in the hospital. She was covered in 3rd-degree burns, and she had a few broken ribs. According to the doctor, some of the burns on her face were going to scar. Ku couldn't stop the tears from falling if she tried. All she had done was try to cheer up and maybe befriend the boy who had transferred into her class. Ku had heard that Bakugou had been expelled from UA in his first week, so of course he'd be unhappy with being in Aldera High School. But it had been a few weeks and he was still snapping at all of their classmates. He was angry and bitter, and Ku wanted to help. Her quirk was called Balloon Animal, and it enhanced her to be able to create balloon animals and fill them with helium from the empty holes at her palms. She was planning to pursue a career with kids, maybe as a clown, or for a party company, something like that. But today, she had wanted to cheer up her classmate. She had made him a cute little Pomeranian balloon dog, hoping to maybe make him smile or laugh. Instead, she got a face full of explosions. Suspended for 1 week. This is the first time he's ever been suspended. No one had ever had the balls to suspend him before. What was different this time? I hurt her? Katsuki thought to himself. And he had hurt her. He saw the burns. He knew how hard he had punched her. He had heard her ribs crack. But it's not like he's never done that before. She wasn't the first classmate he'd hurt, and she probably wouldn't be the last. So what the fuck was the problem? Katsuki let explosions fill his hands, and the release felt so good. Besides, that extra deserved it. She was looking down on me. And she was. Why the fuck else would she give him some stupid balloon? And with that stupid look on her face, too? She was pitying him. Well, he showed her. Katsuki threw an explosion at the wall, leaving a dent in the specified four metalled walls his room was made out of. He grinned furiously at the dent at the wall and added another. He had destroyed that stupid-ass dog thing. Then, beat the ever-loving shit out of her. Fucking extra. That'll teach her not to look down at him again. A hero shouldn't do that, he thought, the voice in his head sounding a lot like Deku. Katsuki growled at that, and let the sweat build up in his palms, not exploding. Not only was Deku sitting smugly, tucked away all nice and happy at UA, after having stolen Katsuki's dream, now he's pushing a stupid-ass voice into Katsuki's head? With the excessive amount of sweat in his hands, Katsuki aimed another explosion at the wall, this time punching a hole in the wall right through all the specially built fortifications. Well, the joke's on him. I can't be a hero anymore. He'd been blacklisted from every single hero school in the country. I can still be a hero, came that Deku-sounding motherfucking voice again, causing Katsuki to pause in his rampage. Yeah, there were vocation programs. Katsuki could enroll in one of those, but the hero who came from those programs were likely to never see triple digits in the rankings. Katsuki was supposed to be number 1. He was supposed to be the top hero in the country, showing the world just how amazing he really was. But now, I will never be a hero, and it's all Deku's fault. Katsuki heard the doorbell ring, but whoever it was didn't matter to him. He just blasted another wall apart, this time in the hallway. Nowhere near as heavily fortified, so it crumbled instantly. After a few moments, there were 2 police officers who walked up the stairs to confront him, with his palms still smoking, his parents behind them, both looking terrified. Why are they so scared? The confusion was enough of a distraction for the officers to get cuffed on Katsuki, canceling his quirk instantly, and he could see the relief visibly spreading in his parents. What? Were they scared of him? You stupid-ass bitch! You really called the fucking cops on me? He shrieked at his mom. What the actual fuck, hag? That's no way to speak to your mother. His dad exclaimed, trying to sound stern, but the underlying fear made his voice waver. As Katsuki was dragged out of the house, he saw most of the neighbors standing outside their homes, watching as he was humiliated yet again. Interesting. Okay, so I got not a text. I got a comment from the creator of this fanfic. Hi, hello. And they just explain a little background on Present Mike. I'm pulling it up over here on my phone so I can tell you guys before I go on to the whole moments later. Which video was it? Fuck. Okay, shit. I think it was this one. I don't know. I hope. Point taken, it was just explaining how the reason why Present Mike knows a lot about electricity and stuff like that is because someone that used to mentor him had an electricity quirk. I think Livewire was their name, which I think is a cool as fuck name. I'm gonna be honest with you, cool as hell. But yeah, Livewire, and it's really interesting. It's really nice. I always love seeing those little tidbits. Like, there's definitely moments in stories that I've written, and obviously stories that other people have written, different fan fictions and stuff like that, where there's little tidbits in your head that, you know, do you need that for the story to continue? That little bit of information? No. Does that little bit of information add to the story a little bit in its own way, shape, and form, in the sense of it adds on to the character? It's not necessarily needed for the plot, but, you know, with that there, you get a little insight of the character themselves. Yeah, definitely. So, now talking about what happened in the chapter, what the fuck, Bakugou? I would like to say, a lot of the villain Bakugous that I've seen, and I've read, in the past, a lot of the times, it's literally just, he has been cultivated to be violent. And once it explodes on everybody just turns their back and, you know, wipes their hand of responsibility because they're like, oh, well, that one got away from us. Ha ha, he. And he never gets the anger management that he needs. He never gets the correct education that he needs to not turn out that way, right? And then there's obviously the one or two where he's literally a fucking bitch. I saw one where he was like absolutely a bitch. Like it was around my era where I didn't read tags, and I just went in blindsided, jumped straight into the deep end, and Jesus Christ, I was like, oh fuck, because there was non-con in it, and it had to do with Bakugou, and I'm like, what the fuck? Because I'm like, I didn't read the tags. I'm like, shit, I was reading a silly, funny, haha, Izuku villain. What the fuck is that? I was mortified. I was mortified, and the whole time, Bakugou tortured people. Like, he was in middle school and motherfucker was torturing people, not just being his regular, angry self. Like, I mean, motherfucker, like, saw that someone was in pain and he fed off of that shit. And I'm like, God fucking damn it, that is the spawn of Satan. There is no anger management that's gonna fucking fix that shit, right? So there's sometimes where I see a Bakugou that's like, yeah, no, there's no fixing that. And in this case, I feel like there could have been a fixing that, but I think we're reaching the point where there is no return, in the sense of it is too late. You have, one domino fell and another's falling, and it's going to be really hard to stop those dominoes from falling before the inevitable inevitable, whatever, you get my point. But yeah. Hee hee ha ha. Okay, so chapter 24. I'm gonna read a random part of chapter 24. We're gonna get spoiled. Alright, let's see. Chapter 24. Okay. You have such a cute little boyfriend. I am almost jealous. Keigo squealed, squeezing Izuku into a tight hug. Alright, we get Keigo into this chapter. Alright. It's an interesting line to read there. But yeah, I'm interested. I'm really interested. I always like the Bakugou being a villain, or Izuku being a villain, or stuff like that, where it kind of, diverts from the canon, because I really like to see how an author goes about it. You're going about it, you the author, talking to you, readers, tune out. You're going about it in a way that I find it really interesting. I want to see what happens more. Okay, like, what is his downfall? Like, is it this moment where he's just absolutely feeling humiliated? Stuff has happened. He's been expelled. He literally can't be a hero, not in the way that he wants to, because, he wants to be, like, the number one. He wants the glory. That's what he wants. He doesn't just want to save people, right? Is that what ends up leading him to the point where when the League of Villains offer to, help him get rid of what he hates, because that's what Shigaraki's probably gonna do, is that the final drop, like the final the stick that finally broke the camel's back, or whatever the saying is, like, stuff like that. It's also interesting that I'm really interested in saying, seeing, yes, not saying, fuck. I'm really interesting. I know, sweetie, I know you're there. My Storm is meowing like crazy. The door's open. I don't know why you're meowing. It's still not dinner time. You ate 2 hours ago. Calm down. But yeah, it's just also interesting. Okay, as always in our raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.